side. Welcome to Night Hacking at the DevOps Conference. I'm joined here by John Smart and an unnamed heckler who we're not gonna even pay any attention to off camera here. So how's your DevOps experience? I think we've been having a lot of breakfast.
Yes,
together in the holiday, and the very finest accommodations in Antwerp.
Within stone's throw of the conference center, anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And you're a regular DevOpsian. How many years running?
I wasn't here last year, but that's the only one I've skipped since I think 2008 or 9. It's been a while, yeah.
Okay, so you're practically a native Antwerpian.
Yeah, I know the beers of Antwerp, more or less.
Yeah, it is a good place to have beer. And you're giving sessions here on behavior-driven development, or BDD? That's right,
yep. So I gave a university session at the start of the week, which is a 3-hour marathon, and with a bit of live coding, a bit of theory, a bit of blood on the floor.
Not your own, hopefully.
Well, not too much of my own, a little bit of live debugging. And today there was some live coding as well.
Yes, I remember, maybe it was breakfast or sometime, you were threatening to go slideless when you were chatting with Venkat.
Yes, and I kind of did. So it ended up being some 5 introductory slides, basically the title and a little bit about what Serenity is, and then straight into the coding. That was the first time I've done pretty much 100% pure coding, so that was an interesting experience.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
And do you think it was a success? Would you try it again?
I would try it again. I think it was a success. I think you have to adapt the live coding exercises to the audience and be fairly reactive to what sort of experience level they've got and what sort of expectations they have. You don't want it to be too simple, otherwise they get bored, or if it's too complicated, the audience will get lost. So there's a balance to strike. But yeah, I think it went well. So it was quite a good experience. Just
earlier, we had Heinz Kabutz here on the night hacking stream, and he was doing some live coding. We were trying to figure out how we could get some of the Java threading support to work with code which has a bunch of weights in it efficiently, and it was successful. But along the way, we needed to get some help from our audience to get through some of the tricky parts. So, were any of the folks in your session giving you live pair programming?
They were. Yeah, there were a few who pointed out silly mistakes or figured out why things were failing. I don't make mistakes. It's all deliberate.
Yeah, but you were teaching them by showing them what not to do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And they were the astute people in the audience picked up on it and were helping everyone else
seeing who was awake.
Yeah, very good. And what else have you done at the DevOps conference other than give sessions and drink beer?
That pretty much sums it up. I've only been to a couple of other sessions. I've been preparing my stuff a lot of the time and networking and catching up with people. I usually spend a stint of time in Europe when I come over for DevOps, so I'm off to Dublin next week and London the week after that.
Oh, okay.
And,
so you've got
catching up with
full
people.
Itinerary. Is that recreation or work?
Work. Oh. So I'm running some training courses in London, and I've got working with some people I used to work with who've moved on to a big bank in Dublin.
Okay, catching up with old colleagues who are in the area. But I think if you're flying all the way out here, it makes sense.
It does. I did come out here for DevOps UK, which was a 2-day session.
Yeah.
And I was going to do some stuff here, but I ended up having to do some stuff back in Sydney, so it was literally fly in, fly out, which was kind of interesting because it means you give your presentation and in your local time it's something like 3 a.m. in the morning.
So do you actually get any real work done while you're traveling? Like, do you get any hacking work on your open source projects?
Yeah,
a little bit?
Yeah, I get hacking done. Not much real work, but I actually get it.
Things you're interested in, you experiment or try new ideas on.
I do a lot of work with the hackathon, and I'm in the Hacker Garden, and that's where a lot of the Thucydides, which is now Serenity stuff, has come out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't you mention a little bit more about Serenity?
So Serenity is a library that's basically about living documentation for behavior-driven development tools, but not just behavior-driven development. So it goes on top of things like Cucumber or JBehave or JUnit.
Yeah, and it's in the code, and it kind of morphs with the code as you're...
Yeah, it basically instruments the code and watches what the tests do and observes them and records what they do, the steps they go through to demonstrate acceptance criteria.
Turns that into kind of a living document which you can then publish for your end users?
Yeah.
Or is it more developer focused?
It's end user focused. It's very much...
End user.
It's very much end user or BAs or testers. So it's the living documentation.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because part of the theory of BDD is that you're actually using it to model a lot of the acceptance stories from your customers. So.
Exactly. So you start off, in simple terms, you have a chat with your product owner, your BA, your tester, you get together, you see what works, what doesn't, you talk through some examples, and you come up with acceptance criteria out of that, and some of them you can automate them. And you might use Cucumber or you might just use JUnit, but you end up with reports that reflect the conversations you had at the start of the iteration.
Yeah, so, actually, I wrote a behavior-driven development test system myself, too.
That rings a bell.
And it was for the JavaFX language.
Test assert, I believe.
Sadly, it's not really well maintained anymore.
But there are quite a few of those assert libraries floating around. There's a new one that's more at the unit testing level, but I think there was a talk on it that I missed because I was giving a talk possibly.
Yeah, hard to be in two places at once.
Yes, on, I think it's, I can't remember the name of it. It's got lambdas and it's got asserts and it's got J in it.
I'm sure it's a good framework then. It has all the buzzwords.
Yeah, all the buzzwords.
I wonder if we should get them to contrast these behavior-driven development with the defect-driven development methodology.
Oh, all right. Our heckler wants to know about how DD,
yeah, D-cube, defect-driven development.
Defect-driven development, yes, it's a very popular approach. Widely used, actually.
Yeah, so what do you think about D-cubed? Is that an agile best practice that you...
Oh, absolutely. It's used everywhere. Well, I actually did come across, because I'm very cautious in quoting figures and saying you get 0 defects once you start with BDD. And in Sydney, I was doing some work with a big national bank that I'm probably not allowed to mention. But they basically, they've been introducing Agile and Scrum and BDD, and they've been doing the JBehave and integrating everything, doing it well. Mm-hmm. And they did a presentation at Scrum Australia, and they were saying basically they've gone from a fairly large number of bugs going into production sort of as an accepted defect-driven development cycle down to 0 bugs in production and only 1 or 2 actually getting into UAT each sprint. So they've found it to be quite effective.
Yeah, that's even better than your presentation probably.
Well, I wouldn't quote numbers like that, but they do, and that's...
Okay, Kirk's having a little bit too much fun here. All right, so we're gonna flip this on its head, and I'm gonna thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
being on the
That's
Night Hacking interview, and don't go away yet because we are gonna keep the stream rolling, and we're gonna play. Let's set up Kirk's new Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, we're gonna play. Boot the Pi, right?
Boot the Pi. All right. So thanks for joining the recording.
Recording.